we're starting now. And so your question was about balancing for number of players. So my question, or my response to that is often don't be uncomfortable with not letting the players know how much HP something has. Like, don't think that they're gonna know what it is. And, like, just cut it off when it seems thematically the most appropriate, as opposed to making your players hit until it gets to absolutely 0. Because it will be equally satisfying if they can feel like their characters are doing something than if you need to stretch it out across multiple sessions because it takes so long to knock the monster's health down. But yeah.
Huh. Okay. I never thought about just killing the monster when it's time to kill the monster versus just waiting until it hits 0.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend doing that because when I was just early DMing, I would let battles go on for too long. One thing that I recommend about battles specifically is that every 2 or 3 rounds, something should change. And what this means could be like maybe the monsters get reinforcements, or maybe they start using a different type of move, or maybe the terrain is altered. But one of the ways to keep it engaging is by making sure that it's changing, so people have to be very on it with their responses. Okay, so let's kind of go over what we're going to do here with this module today. So we're going to start with character creation, and then we're going to do an overview of how to look at a module and how to understand what you need to do in order to get it ready for your players. Like how much kind of you need to put in before you run the game, as opposed to how much you do when you're just running it. Okay? Is there anything else that you all would like to address beyond what we've talked about and posted in the chat? So we're going to talk a little bit about setting up some dynamic lighting. We're going to go a little bit we're going to talk a little bit about players and balance issues, but first let's just talk about how to get set up and do a module. So let's start. Are you all logged in as GMs? Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
You're ahead of the game. So let's go over to the journal tab, and I'm going to have you click add, and then we're going to do character. So when you add a character, imagine that you're making pre-generated characters for your players to jump into later. I would suggest making it in all players' journals, and then go ahead and make it say edited and controlled by all players. And then click Save Changes. Oh, cool, you all did it. Well, we don't... Okay, mine's called Chadrock. It will automatically generate a name. Obviously, you can change it to whatever name you want, but we don't really need to get terribly precious with this now because this is just a tutorial. Okay, so... Jen, you were talking a little bit before about having trouble setting up characters. Are there specific things that you've struggled with?
I think it's probably just selecting the skills and stuff and not being confident in knowing where to start, I guess, on a character sheet.
Okay. So let's go from bio and info over to character sheet and then use the character mancer. So with the character mancer, this helps us quite a bit with what we need to do for each character, and it's going to be a lot easier if you're doing a melee character versus a spellcaster. Spellcasters obviously have a lot more to think about. So I would just pick a random race. It doesn't really matter which one you choose because we just want to go through the character mancer together. So whatever you think is fun. I'm just going to pick the first one that I see that I like. So it's going to be a Gerbine, one of the little mouse people from Humblewood. And so let's keep going. Do you know about alignment already? Does everyone already know about alignment? Okay, cool. So we won't go over alignment. And so, Jen, do you know about the different classes in Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes and no. I think last time I understood it when you explained it to us, but like if I had to like explain it now.
No worries. How about what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you a video. There's a really awesome YouTube channel called Volo's. Wait, I think it's called Volo's Guide. And I'll just send you a video because we don't have time to go through all the individual classes right here. But I'm going to say that they're kind of broken down into melee classes and casters. And some of them are kind of in between. But when you're making pre-generated characters, you might want to just make a few in order to have some variety. And some of them, in this module, there are already pre-generated ones. But each one is better at specific things. So I'll send you a video so you can learn a little bit about the classes. But for now, just pick whichever class suits you. I would recommend, like...
I know what I think a barbarian is, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah, sweet. Nice. So what's nice about the Charactermancer is that it makes a lot of stuff just load automatically as opposed to having to look at the book. So remember always when you're using the Charactermancer to scroll down, because it's really easy to skip stuff. So after you've chosen which class you'd like to be, just scroll down and, okay, so here it says skill proficiencies. So if you'd like, I think the best way to, I guess, learn about the skills is just, you can click on them and then it gives you the definition of like what it means up on the side. Things that are always good are like perception and athletics, stealth and survival. And investigation is always good.
Is there a reason why sometimes when you're trying to select the skill, it doesn't let you pick it?
Is normally...
Like it's grayed out?
Say that again?
Like it's grayed out?
Yeah.
Usually that means you've selected it somewhere else or you're getting it from something else.
Oh, okay.
Or it could be that you already have it. Like, so for languages, common is grayed out because everyone can speak common. That kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
Yeah, I think this is like trying to make it so you don't double up.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I would just pick 3. Basically, your skills are going to be, I guess, ways that your abilities kind of like express themselves. So if you're good at dexterity, then you'll be a little bit better at sneaking. So then you'd probably be a little bit better at stealth. And they all have ability scores that they correspond with. And they're kind of like, some of them like kind of make sense logically. When you have an actual physical character sheet in front of you, you can see like which ability score is giving a modifier for which skill. But luckily here we have the ones that are possible on these drop-down menus. So you're not choosing from all of them, you're just choosing from like 12. Okay, so once you've chosen some of these things, just move to next. And the ability score would you like me to talk through what it says on the ability score section? Because I think just looking at this, it might not make any sense.
Yeah, just briefly.
Yeah.
It kind of looks familiar, but it's kind of been a while.
Yeah, no worries. So you can either roll for your skills like you would if you were at the table, or you can choose to have a standard, like a standardized set of scores that are like generally pretty good, so that you won't like roll too poorly. Like you might roll very bad, and so one of your skills would just have to be it's called dump stat, and that's where you put your bad roll. There's also the chance to point by, and what point by means is that you can allocate certain numbers to each of the skills. So that's kind of like you get to choose what your abilities will be. You get like a total of 27, and then you can just put them. I think you start at either 8 or 10, and you can just kind of put more in.
I think I broke the character mancer.
I see you're rolling for stats. Nice.
Yeah, I think I broke the character mancer because I do this a lot, and I usually use a standard array because I'm lazy, but I thought I would try the rolling for stats, and now I can't click on these. And I'm wondering if it's because I have duplicates in there. So I keep trying to re-roll, but every single re-roll has a duplicate value. Like, this one has 3 14s and 2 12s.
Huh.
Okay, that one has all different.
And when
No, it has 2 13s.
when it has all different ones, are you actually able to assign them?
I don't know. I haven't found one that's all different yet. Every single one has had at least 2 numbers that are the same. I may have just broken the character mancer. I know it's a little bit of a house of cards. Yeah, I think I just broke the character mancer.
Well,
Look at that one. That one doesn't have duplicates.
Yeah, that one doesn't have any duplicates.
Here's the one.
Yeah, but it still won't let me assign them. Like, I'm clicking them and just nothing is happening.
Oh, no.
Well, I don't think this is a question for us today, so why don't we just switch to standard array?
It's fine for me. I've made plenty of characters. I think I broke it on standard array, too, actually. It's not working.
Oh.
But don't worry about it. I've made many characters, so I don't need to go through the whole character mancer.
All right. Jen, did that make enough sense? Do you think you have a better idea and a better understanding on how to do this part of it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So the next section is backgrounds, and like there's lots to choose from. I would not overthink this. The way that backgrounds work is they'll give your character some bonuses based on what happened to them in the past. It's a kind of cool addition to fifth edition. But this is kind of something that, because we have we have accounts on Roll20, we have like all of these books available to us, so just don't get overwhelmed. I would recommend looking at the ones in the that say PHB, that's Player's Handbook. And those are kind of simple. They're like criminal or entertainer, knight, or sailor.
Yeah.
And this would be more important if we were making characters that were gonna be ones we played in for a long campaign, but we're not. We're just making these for like one shot. So okay.
Oh, I figured my stuff out.
Oh, you did? Nice.
It was actually applying, it just wasn't lighting up when I clicked it, but when I looked at the top, it was actually applying the whole time. It was working, it just didn't show me it was working.
Interesting. So, after doing the background section, we're going to go with the equipment section. So, you get, you can have 2 options. You can either have, class equipment or starting wealth. Class equipment depends on which class you're playing, and starting wealth is, I think, something that you roll. Yeah, you roll 5d4 times 10, and if you roll well, that's great. If you don't, well, if you want something that's more safe, you might want to go with class equipment because it will also give you some items. But if you want to choose what items you buy, then you would choose starting wealth. And yeah, that's determined by your class. So, does that make sense?
Yep.
Sweet. I'm gonna click spells. So if you were making a character that had spells, funny, this one says the arcane is a mystery to you, but if you weren't, then what you would do is there would be a drop-down menu, and you would select what spells this character knows, and then you would hit next. But as you select them, it tells you what the spell can do. So you just have to be a little bit patient if you don't know the spells already, because you just need to look and see what they can do. But if you're starting at first level, there's not that many options. There's just some.
Okay. Since this one it just says arcane is a mystery to you, there's nothing to select. Would I just skip this section of it?
Yep, you just go to next.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, and then on bio, it's where you would put some stuff about a character. When you're just making characters for your players to play, I recommend maybe putting a little bit of personality archetypes, like the trickster or the joker or something. But that's up to you. And that's probably best a little bit later. So in bio, you just put some demographics. And then I guess if you put any kind of personality details, that would probably be on the bio and info sheet. Okay, so that's the simple way to make a character. That sound okay? Feeling a little bit more confident about it?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. And then at the end, it'll give you a review, and it will say, you haven't done this, this, or this.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Yep.
Like I have chosen my race.
Yeah. This would be important if we were carefully making a bunch of characters. I just kind of wanted to go over this, so don't worry if you missed anything.
Okay.
Because this is just how the process works for making them. It doesn't have to be perfect this time.
Perfect.
Are there any questions about how to make a character already? Do you have any questions about telling your players or how to guide them through this process? Because they might even be making their own characters. Okay, sweet.
Nope, I think this is good.
Nice. All right. So in that case, I would like for us to go together to the Journal tab. So in the Journal tab, we're gonna look at this module. So let's click. I was about to say where it says start here, but honestly, I think you should scroll down a little bit to where it says Chapter 1, A Night at the Fey Fayre. So normally, the way that these modules are organized, there are there's overview sections, and these overview sections, like here in Chapter 1, the one that says Running This Adventure, is a pretty helpful one. It breaks down the structure of it, and I've run also Descent into Avernus has these, and that module takes like a year if you really run all of it, but these are really helpful because you can figure out how you're going to break it into parts, or if you're even going to do that. Because often it doesn't really tell you an accurate description of how long it's going to take to run a game. Everything says that it's going to be 2 or 3 hours, but that's really rarely the case. Still, I have run this module in that amount of time, and so this one is more correct than some of the others. So, when preparing for this, one of the things that you do is, like, read everything in the module. I know that just kind of sounds basic, but you need to read the module first. Unless it's like a long campaign like Curse of Strahd, I don't think you need to read all of Curse of Strahd before running that game. Like, it's best if you do, but I think it's better to get like a general overview of where you need to start for your first session and do a bit of research, like what you need to bring to the table. So with this one, we're gonna start with Act 1. And like, we read a little bit about, when we click the Act 1 exploring the fair, we read a little bit about like what's going on in this module. So one thing I would pay attention to is figure out what the first scene is going to be, because that's super important. And also figure out how to describe the first setting to your players as vividly as you can. And when you're describing, you want to look for words that are invoking senses. Like the things that you hear, the things that you see, the things that you smell. Taste comes up, but not that often. And so this module has a lot of nice smells and colors. But like anything that evokes feeling is really good in descriptions. So this is probably obvious, but just in case it isn't, will you mouse over where it says Act 1, Exploring the Fair? And then just double-click the name? Okay, and you see that it gets small, and you can just move it around? Okay. You see that you can just kind of drag it, and it's there? This is super helpful, because there's going to be a lot of information that you just need to put to the side for when it becomes relevant.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, which is super helpful when you have all these things up and open.
Yeah, before I got a second monitor, this was a lifesaver. I also, if you do have two monitors, this is also probably very obvious, but on the top left, there are these, like this two little window thing. It's for cascading your windows, so you can click to pop it out, and then you can just pull it onto another screen. Well, that's on the top left, right next to Act 1, or whatever the name of the thing is. But generally...
And now if you pull... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, if you pull it to a different screen, though, now it doesn't allow you to shrink it, right?
I think you can still shrink it. It doesn't... Sorry. It doesn't allow you to make it little, no.
Okay.
I think if you click... Because you're making it an entirely new pop-out. And so it's not within the client. But however, you can minimize it if you would like. Like, you can minimize it into a different window. Okay, so there's that. And also, okay, sorry, I lost my train, so I'm going to try to come back to it. So we're talking about running the adventure. The first thing is that we get the first scene. Now, I often have the characters, all the character sheets over on another monitor, and the reason that I do this is because I try to use the characters' names as much as I can, so that people can get used to hearing the names of their character, because I think it becomes easier to roleplay when you're like responding to that name. I also, if at all possible, as soon as I can, give the opportunity to respond in character to something. What's really good about this module is that as you walk up, you have to interact with this, the ticket dealer, and the ticket dealer asks for them to buy tickets, so they have to immediately make a decision or a choice. And like, you want to get investment as early as you can. So making people make choices helps to give investment as into what happened. Also, this is about a part of the hook in this is that there's a talent show. So when you're playing this, you concede, oh, would you already like to sign up for the talent show? Because when you're doing a one-shot, it's really important that you know what the climax is going to be. I mean, unless it's a GM-less game, but with D&D, like, you're working towards, like, some pivotal points. You need to get to that. And actually how the characters get to it isn't so important. It's more that they go to that event. With this, it's the talent show. And so one of the other things is that I'd like to show you is in this module, over on the right, in the journal tab, let me show you how to show handouts. Maybe you already know this, but just in case you don't, I would recommend that you scroll down. You can scroll down to any of the items that you like, or any of the characters, and then just click one of them. And then on the top right, it's going to say show to players. So please just show me something. Good. Yes. Nice. And so when these things pop up, all the things that say GM notes, they can't see. This is obvious. Okay, awesome. You all did it. Yes, this is how you show handouts. I also like this other trick where this is not so relevant for this module, but you can click a token and then hit Control-Z and it shows it to everyone. Maybe it's Shift-Z. Yeah, there you go. See how this cutie just popped up on all your screens? The way that you do that is you find a token anywhere on the map and you hit Shift-Z. Okay, so as the module goes on, more things are going to like reveal themselves based on your characters or your players' choices. And this can be like tons of different things depending on the players. So like don't expect that you're gonna get through everything possible because it's not gonna happen. You're only gonna get through like maybe 15% or 20% of what's been prepared. With this module, there's tons of little stalls, and usually you let the players kind of like explore on their own. And eventually, one of the things in the first act is they need to encounter this mirror mime, because this person is like the key to the mystery. But otherwise, a lot of it's just in for flavor. So what you would do is let them explore and have a bit of control, like going around and seeing what interests them. And also kind of develop their characters, like make them make some more choices. Like, do you choose to go to the petting zoo? Do you choose to look at the amulets? Do you choose to get tricked by the fairies? Nicole, what was it like when you were running this?
Yeah, 15% seems about right. People got very obsessed with there's a unicorn in the corner and pigs, and they got very obsessed with them and freed the unicorn at the end of the session. And they bought like 5 billion Bork's Oily Boys and started giving them out like candy. Those are the two things they were obsessed with. But they didn't touch like most of these, like the shootings, the bags, none of that stuff. The popcorn, the ice cream, they didn't touch any of that stuff.
That also happened when I played it. The Blink puppies were always very popular. So like,
I was sad that they didn't like the toads because I thought the toads were cool.
Did you imply that the toads were people who had stayed in the fair for too long?
No, they never even like went to the toads or had any interest in toads whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much in this module.
Yeah.
So, the first act is kind of about people wandering around and kind of just having a nice time. It contrasts a normal Dungeons and Dragons session because, like, it's not really about fighting anything. It's kind of about wandering around, having a nice time. When I ran this, I made sure to make all of the NPCs hot because I've been playing a lot of Thirsty Sword lesbians. So, like, this dryad that's running the shoots and snags, like, I made him into a snack. Sometimes this is nice because it's nice when characters can, like, have a happily ever after. Doesn't have to be romantic, but, like, maybe one NPC can join the party or something. So, when you're running this game, you basically look at your time and you say, after like half an hour of wandering around, the talent show starts. And usually that's done by having the MC, who's up in the top right corner, Dove Feather, announce that the talent show is happening. So basically you move all the tokens up towards the talent show stage, and then you like announce each of the acts as they go, and then eventually let the players also come up with some sort of act. Just a second. I live on a busy street and there were dogs outside that were doing barking and I didn't like that. Did you get cookies?
Yes, I did. Cookies. They are back at my door.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, so with this module you run the talent show. Does anybody want any tips about running NPCs? Would you like to hear about kind of how to not sound like yourself?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when I know that an NPC is going to play a major role, I try to come up with like a hand position that I will assume when that person is talking.
Because it kind of helps me to kind of get into them. With this character, Dove Feather, I kind of wanted him to like sound like a circus person or a radio announcer. But whenever you're trying to embody a different character, there are a bunch of things that you can do. You can make your voice higher, you can make your voice lower, you can make it in your mouth like this, you can talk like this.
Or you can like kind of swallow your voice. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do to play with it. It is also interesting when you slow down or go really fast. That can give a lot of distinction. Like, if you don't want to play too much with like making your voice sound different, you can also just speed it up or slow it down. Also, some characters enunciate a great deal, and then others don't really enunciate at all. So I would recommend, like, maybe either changing your voice. For me, when I make a character, I like try to like kind of feel it in my body a little bit by like coming up with some sort of way to move my hand. That helps. Does anybody else know things for being different NPCs that they would recommend? Corey does this cool thing where he has a bunch of glasses that he just has near the desk, and he'll just like put them on, or like if he brings up something in the game, he'll just like lift it up, like if he has a rock with a secret. I love that. I think that's super cool.
It's like his persona. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's neat. I think it's really easy. Like, since he kind of inspired me to buy a bunch of empty glasses, so I just keep those around because it's really easy if you're putting on a hat or glasses to assume a different character. Like, obviously we're playing this on Roll20 and we're not LARPing, but a little bit goes a long way. There's this website called the Alexandrian, and he writes an awesome blog. And the Alexandrian has an NPC page, and what it says is basically that you need to ask yourself a bunch of questions when you're making your own NPC, and one of them is like a phrase that this NPC like goes back to, and usually if you try to do this phrase in this voice, it kind of helps you remember who this character is. Like, I will always serve the sun god. You know, something like that. Okay, so getting in, so we talked a little bit about characters, or how to become different characters, and I think with this game, after one thing I do is that whenever possible, I let my players read things, because I don't love monologuing. I would rather people have the chance to actively participate whenever possible. So if something happens where, like, I can give a player the opportunity to read a thing, especially, like, when we're doing the instructions or something, then I will. With this game, after the talent show, then the PCs are immediately put in a position where they are accused of a crime. Now, it's great to put pressure on your player characters because this means they're under some stress and have to make choices. And having to make choices is great for becoming a different character because they have to kind of think about what that character would do. What would you do if accused of a crime is probably very different than what your, like, elf wizard would do. So, after that, you give, the characters are given a bunch of different opportunities for ways they could come up with the answer to what happened, but I wouldn't ever try to be too vague. Like, people love solving mysteries, but people also love figuring things out, even if they, like, have been given lots of hints or just remember something. There's this thing called the Rule of 3 in Call of Cthulhu, where if you want something to be important, then you need to reference it 3 times or in 3 different ways. For example, the person who is the actual criminal has actually been chosen in this game. It's the Mirror Mime. And you're supposed to encounter the Mirror Mime in the first act, where the Mirror Mime will will hold up a frame, and the player character will see this, and you will realize that the mime has shapeshifted into the person, and it's not actually a mirror, it's just a person holding the frame. And so, like, you realize that there's a shapeshifter among you, but you have to, like, find this character. That's the biggest mystery of this game. And so, what was it like for you, Nicole, when they were going around looking for this character?
They actually rolled